The day he left, it wasn't just him walking out the door. It was everything she believed about love, too. It started with silence. No screams. No dramatic scene. Just one quiet moment that split her life into two parts, before and after. Julia stood in the kitchen, holding a cold coffee she made for two. But he never came back for his cup. She stared at the door for hours that day. It didn't slam. It clicked, soft and final, like the closing of a book she didn't want to finish. And that's when it hit her. This wasn't just a breakup. This was the moment she realized, no one is coming to save me. Not him, not anyone. And in that instant of quiet heartbreak, something cracked open. She didn't know it yet, but this wasn't the end of her story. This was the start of a storm, the kind that doesn't destroy you. It reveals what's still standing when everything else is gone. Before the heartbreak, Julia lived a quiet life, not boring, just invisible. She worked at a bookstore downtown. Every morning she'd open the shop alone, breathe in the scent of old pages, and wait for the first customer, usually an old man who never bought anything, but always asked for coffee. Julia liked it that way. No pressure, no noise. Just stories. Other people's lives, never hers. She had a favorite corner in the store, a little armchair tucked between two forgotten shelves. And every lunch break, she'd sit there with a book she never finished. Not because the stories were bad, but because part of her didn't believe in happy endings anymore. Even before he left, Julia felt like she was slowly disappearing. She smiled at strangers, answered emails, sent "I'm fine" texts to friends who barely asked anymore. She laughed at jokes she didn't hear, lived days she couldn't remember. And every night, she wrote one line in a notebook by her bed, same words, same ink, same small hope. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel different, but tomorrow always looked like today. She never told anyone this, but deep down, she was afraid. Not of being alone, but of staying stuck. Of becoming the kind of person who exists quietly and leaves quietly, and no one notices in between. One day, she found an old photo hidden in a drawer. She was 17, wild eyes, messy curls, and a smile that didn't know what heartbreak was. She stared at that girl for a long time. Where did she go? That's when she whispered something she hadn't said in years. I miss her. It didn't happen all at once. It was quiet, like a leak in a boat that no one sees until you're drowning. The breakup? No screaming, no slamming doors, just a text, one sentence, 7 words. I don't think I love you anymore. Julia stared at the screen for a long time. Then she placed the phone on the table and kept stirring her coffee like nothing had changed. But inside, something cracked, not loud, just final. She didn't cry that night. Not really. Instead, she washed the dishes, folded her clothes, answered emails, and at 2 a.m. she sat in bed, staring at the wall, feeling everything and nothing at once. In the days that followed, she became a ghost in her own life. She still went to work, still smiled when customers said, "Thank you." Still laughed at her boss's dumb jokes. But there were moments, just flashes, where the mask would slip, like when she saw a couple holding hands outside the shop and her eyes burned, but she didn't blink, or when she dropped her keys and just stood there, staring at the floor for 5 whole minutes. People didn't notice, not really, because heartbreak doesn't leave bruises. It leaves questions, quiet ones. Why wasn't I enough? Was it something I said? Was I ever really loved, or just convenient? At night, she stopped writing in her notebook. There were no more maybe tomorrows, just silence and sleep that never felt like rest. One evening, as she locked the store, she caught her reflection in the glass. Tired eyes, empty face, and out loud, just once, she said, "This isn't me." But the truth was, she didn't know who me even was anymore. It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a big decision. It was a mug, an old white mug, chipped on the edge, with the words, "You got this," fading from too many washes. It was his, the kind of thing she always meant to throw away, but never did. That morning, she reached for it without thinking, and as she poured the coffee, her hands stopped. She stared at it, really stared, and then, like some tiny rebellion, she dropped it right there on the kitchen floor. It shattered, and something in her, something small, felt free. Later that day, while scrolling through her phone in silence, an ad popped up. "Start your own online store. No experience needed." She didn't think. She clicked. It felt ridiculous. She didn't know how to sell anything. She didn't even know what she wanted to sell. But there was something about it. A door that opened just a little, just enough for air to get in. That night, she couldn't sleep. So she made a list, not a to-do list, a never-again list. Never again will I ask someone to choose me. Never again will I give everything and forget myself. Never again will I stay silent just to keep peace. And at the bottom, one sentence, in capital letters, underlined, "Build something that's mine." She didn't know what that meant, but she knew it was real. The next morning, she wore her oldest sneakers, the ones she used to wear back in college, when she believed anything was possible. They were dirty, torn, but when she put them on, her steps felt louder. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing, not yet, because this wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about proving to herself that even broken hearts can build empires. One step, one click, one idea at a time. Nobody claps for the first sale that never comes. The first 3 weeks, nothing. No clicks, no emails, just silence. She watched tutorial after tutorial, wrote product, descriptions with trembling fingers, and cried over colors that didn't feel right. It was harder than she thought. She started doubting everything. Was this just another distraction, another escape? And then, one night, she almost quit, closed her laptop, pushed it away. "I'm not built for this," she whispered. But the next morning, something strange happened. An order came in, $14.99, just one. But it felt like a scream inside her chest. She danced alone in her room, barefoot, like she had won a lottery, because in a way, she had. It wasn't the money, it was proof that she could build something, even small. That moment lit a new kind of fire. She worked after work. She worked during lunch. Weekends disappeared. So did sleep. But every small win, a nice review, a returning customer, felt like breath to lungs that hadn't worked in months. Still, it wasn't easy. There were days when the website broke, days when people returned products, nights when she wondered if she was fooling herself. But each failure taught her something. She learned how to talk to her audience, how to market with her story, not just her products. She stopped pretending to be perfect, started sharing her truth. "I'm not a business expert," she wrote on Instagram. "I'm just a girl who refused to stay broken." And people listened. They felt it. Her following grew slowly, not because she was the best, but because she was real. She wasn't chasing success anymore. She was building it, brick by painful brick, and even when she cried on the bathroom floor, exhausted and unsure, she never let herself stay down too long. She remembered her never again list, and every time she thought of giving up, she looked at her wall where those words still hung. Build something that's mine. That wasn't just a sentence anymore, it was her spine. The door was heavy. She stared at it for what felt like an eternity. The choice was clear, but the weight of it, unbearable. On one side, comfort, the job that paid the bills, the predictability. The safety net. On the other, the unknown. The dream she had built with her own hands, but also the possibility of falling flat on her face. She could hear the whispers. It's too soon. Maybe you're not ready. What if this is all just a fantasy? Her stomach churned. She knew what was on the line. This wasn't just about her business anymore. It was about her, the woman who had been too scared to chase anything for years, the woman who thought love was the only thing that could fill the emptiness. But now it was her time to choose herself. With a deep breath, she placed her hand on the doorknob. One last decision. She could walk away, go back to safety, to something comfortable, to the life she thought she had, or she could step into the unknown and risk everything for the woman she was becoming. Her heart raced. The pressure was intense. But there was something different in her eyes now. A fire. A clarity. Without another word, she opened the door and walked. Right through. It wasn't an overnight success. Far from it. The first month after quitting her job was a blur. She was all in. No more backup plans. She worked tirelessly, worked on her marketing, refined her website, answered customer emails at 2 a.m., and then nothing. Again. Days passed, weeks, nothing changed. The doubts crept back. Maybe it was all a mistake. Maybe she was just lucky that one time. But then, one morning, the orders started coming in. Not just one, but dozens. The numbers started to grow faster than she could keep up. She couldn't believe it. At first, it felt like a dream. Was this real? The best part, she wasn't just getting orders, she was getting messages from people. Real, heartfelt messages. Your product changed my life. Thank you. I've been looking for something like this for so long. And then, there was the big one. An email from a major influencer asking if she could collaborate. Her eyes went wide. Her hands shook as she read it again. Was this really happening? She knew this was her moment. It wasn't the end, but it was proof. Proof that the late nights, the mistakes, the fears, the exhaustion, it was all worth it. It was the moment she realized her life had completely changed. It wasn't about the money, though that was nice. It was the feeling that she had finally stepped into her own power. She smiled. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was her story, and it was real. As she stood in front of the mirror, something had shifted. It wasn't just the woman staring back at her, but the woman she was becoming. The journey had changed her, not just externally, though the success was real and visible, but something deeper. Something no one could see except for her. She wasn't just building a business anymore. She was building herself. Her reflection used to be a reminder of all the doubts, all the mistakes, all the moments when she thought she wasn't enough. But now it was different. She saw someone who wasn't afraid to take risks, someone who refused to stay stuck, someone who turned pain into power, doubt into determination. The old version of her was still there, in the background. But the new woman? She was strong, resilient, and full of purpose. She had learned to trust herself, to trust the process, and most importantly, to let go of the past. The heartbreak, the doubts, the fear, they no longer controlled her. She had control now. She smiled, softly, staring at the woman in the mirror. "You're doing this," she whispered to herself. And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. Now it's your turn. What's your moment? What's the story that's still waiting to be written in your life? She didn't wait for the perfect time. She didn't wait for things to be easy. She just took the leap, and look where it got her. The next chapter, it could be yours. Share your thoughts with me in the comments below. What was your turning point? What made you believe that you could change everything? If this story spoke to you, let it inspire someone else. You never know who might need to hear this today. And hey, if you want more stories of real change, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next story might be yours.